Hey everybody, and welcome to Maximum Libertarian. I am joined by the one and only Randy. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Doing good. So this is your first podcast, and I'm glad you were able to come over and do it with me. You're helping me with this machine, trying to get the headphones and microphones right.
Yeah, if I'm of any help, I might freeze up while we're doing this, but since it's my first time, I hope people will excuse that.
They will. Uh, so, all right. The thing that I wanted to talk about today is Donald Trump over the weekend. He put out that the New York District Attorney, I guess New York City District Attorney, is going to be filing charges, indicting
I
him.
believe it's the city, but
It's not the Attorney General.
It could be the state.
Well,
But regardless, it's not federal.
right. So Alvin Bragg is going to be calling him out, saying, "Hey, we're going to get you. We're going to indict you on a felony charge. They're going to perp walk him, do the mugshot tomorrow at some point, possibly."
Well, the problem with the whole shebang is they're being bass backwards about it. Because normally you have a crime, then you find the person. They found a person and looked for a crime, which that goes totally against everything in this country of innocent until proven guilty and all that. It's a total political witch hunt. They're just after him because he has different views than them.
Do you think, real quick, Elon Musk has come out, Jimmy Dore, Tim Pool, several people who have bigger voices than this have come out and said that if it happens, he gets arrested, that means 2024, it's a landslide victory for Donald Trump. Do you feel that, or do you feel that...
Most likely because Trump supporters believe, because they got fed up with the Republican Party of just being lockstep along with anything Democrats would want to do. Mm-hmm. Trump comes along, and the way his supporters are looking at him is the people that are our enemy is coming after him too. So he's standing between us and them, and he's the only one doing it. That being the case, if they go after him, then that pretty much checks off and verifies everything that everybody's been thinking all along, that they're out to get him and they're out to get us, and it's us versus them thing. Then they will come over to him in swarms.
Why is it that he continues to go back to the people that turn on him, that have routinely done things to harm his own during his time as president? And let me give you an example. We'll use Lindsey Graham. He did a South Carolina rally. Lindsey Graham's there. But Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, all those folks they worked just as hard as the Democrats, making sure that he was not powerful, that he did not accomplish anything.
Well, he went there to drain the swamp, and they are part of the swamp. They attacked him so much. He was attacked more than any other president in the history of the country. And there's no doubt about that. He was 98% or more negative coverage on him every day from the time he came down the escalator to the time he got out of office. And they're still keeping it up because they're scared to death of him. But they are part of the swamp that he's trying to drain. And they're in there just for looking out for themselves and political power. Just like we were talking earlier, no one is representing Republican voters. And that's what Congress, the House of Representatives, all of these politicians need to remember. They work for us. We do not work for them. And they go in there and they're doing whatever they can to get their money from lobbyists or whatever. And they want to stay in power. Their goal is once you get elected, get reelected, and be damned with anybody else. Right. Their loyalty is to lobbyists, not the people that they are supposed to be representing.
if he was to get back into the White House, what do you expect to happen? I mean, you had 4 years of complete madness. The media was, I mean, they just made a look. Mainstream media is they are bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry, by the war machine, people like that. What do you expect to happen? I mean, there's a lot of. Let me hold on a second. There's a lot of people who have told me that if he gets the nomination, they're just like, I just can't do it again. That they're not going to vote for him. That they would consider voting Libertarian or someone other than Trump. They're not saying they would vote for the Democrat, but they would be looking for other outlets because of the violence and all that stuff.
Well,
What do you think would happen?
what is different this go around is last election we just got out of. They primaried out a bunch of rhinos. And a good number of people that got elected are basically Trump supporters. And then I expect that to happen again next election with the presidential election. And it will be totally different when he goes in there this time. He will actually have some support. Because when he went in there before, even the Republicans were against him about the first 4 or 6 months.
But he had the White House, he had the Senate, and he had the House. So,
But the House and the Senate wouldn't do anything.
I know that. That's why I'm saying it don't seem like there's not going to be much of a difference if he was to get reestablished. I haven't heard him say, like, I think he had said something about getting rid of CIA, FBI maybe, or defunding.
Well, FBI has been in on all of this of hiding Hunter Biden laptop and saying all of this stuff is Russian bullcrap, which has all come out verified it's a lie. Mm-hmm. But they got the election results they wanted, so they can come out, oh, we might have made a mistake.
Well, you got to figure, Joe Biden has had 2 elections now where the media has come out and they have held off from saying anything. The 2020 they held off from saying anything about and with big tech they had the fact that Hunter Biden laptop was legit. And then this past election, what was the big thing? They sat on it until after it was over.
The quid pro quo with the Ukrainians and firing the prosecutor that was after Hunter Biden.
But that was when he was vice president.
Yeah,
I don't know if they can go.
And see, that's the thing. He legitimately did what they accused Trump of doing during a phone call.
Oh, absolutely.
But Biden actually did it, and he gets a free pass because he's on their side.
Right. Well, they're wearing their jersey, so you're absolutely right. Does it give you any hesitancy if Trump got the nomination to vote for him?
Well, if you look
or do you think you would double down and be like, because look, and I'm telling you right now, the 20 Republicans that stood up to Kevin McCarthy in the House, I was telling the guy at work, I said, anyone that supports these folks, what they're doing, better right now get their checkbook out, write them a check, because they're going to need money, and they're also going to need support, either making phone calls, knocking on doors, whatever. So, because in the last election, Mitch McConnell withheld funds from individuals like Dr. Oz, Blake Masters. Mm-hmm. Even though I would have voted for the Libertarian, it don't matter. The fact of the thing is, he was withholding this when he gave up his own power to make sure Donald Trump backed candidates were not funded until either late in the race when it was going to be a lot less effective. Since now we've got this voting starting in mid-September.
Yeah.
And you don't have the first debate until mid-October.
Well, also,
or last October, or last of October.
They're not making sure also of these, like the mail-in ballots and drop boxes and all this crap. There's no chain of like you actually have it. And that's why when 2 in the morning, oh, I'm 100,000 votes behind. Well, look at here. We just happened to find 100,000 votes. We're neck and neck again. And then, oh, but there's no corruption going on.
I think there's always been corruption in votes in elections. It just bugs me that the Democrats and Republicans, well, I'll throw them in there, but especially the Democrats right now, like you would want to make sure the integrity of the election is good. So if it's whoever owns the voting machine, which I don't want to say their name just because since they're suing Fox News, but if you have election machines, check it. Let people try to hijack it. Let's see if have an open source election.
It's like with Kerry Lake in Arizona, in her districts, Republican districts.
Right.
Those machines happened to go down, coincidentally.
Well, they also had the papers were printed improperly. Yeah. Now, what it said is Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, he was also the state secretary of state, like she was. What's her name? Hobbs, down there, and so in turn. It was when you're running for an office, and if you're involved with the election, I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, or since that's who's in there, you should almost all right, I've got to step down for the next 3 months. Mm-hmm. You should not be in charge of, hey, there was a mess up, let me go. I'll have to be the one involved, or people in my. Your people that you work with are already going to be counting.
It's like a football team, and they're their own umpire.
Right.
So, well,
how many football teams have umpires?
I don't know. Just one's in Transylvania. But the thing is, though, what you were saying earlier, from this last election, the Republicans aren't lockstep in with the power structure and status quo of how it's been all along. If you just look at what it took for the guy to get finally nominated as head of the House,
Kevin McCarthy,
because I mean he was like, it's my turn and I'm a shoo-in, and the new guys come along and are like, no, we want this, we want that, and normally they would be like, hey, you're the new guys, you just sit down and shut up and do what you're told. And they're like, no, we represent these people. This is what we're going to do. So they're actually doing their job like they're supposed to. And I think it's going to happen more so next election.
I hope you see more Republicans actually be Republicans what's written on the paper and not just... But I think what happens is, I think everyone truly goes there to be different, make a difference. In the good sense. Not...
At first, I mean, then they get corrupted.
I don't think it takes that long to get corrupted.
But that's why Trump was such a threat, because he did not need money from payoffs, and that he didn't take a check while he was in office. And if you look at, I would say not only presidents, anybody that's ever been elected, ever, he did what he said he was going to do. Right. If you wrote down everything that he said he was going to do, you could check it off like a checklist. He did it.
Yeah.
And everybody else, they go in there, they make all these promises every 4 years to this group and that group, and they'll forget them to the next election. And all these people forget that they're ignored and they're taken for granted. Well, we have to vote this way. And like Trump said, what if you got to lose?
I think that was probably one of his best lines, was when he said that, was, when he went to the black church and he's like, you've been voting Democrat all this time, vote me for 4 years. What else do you got to lose? Vote me out in 4 years and we're good to go. He's the only guy that I've seen who got more votes with Spanish folks, or Hispanic votes, with black Americans. I think he lost white Americans.
Well, it was touch and go, because Hillary carries Tabasco sauce in her purse.
Right.
So
That's always a good
I
sign.
ain't no ways tired.
Yeah. She's such a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
What scares you more? Knowing the potential of riots in the street, like we had when we had the Summer of Love back in 2020, or knowing there's corrupt DAs, so you're not getting a fair shake.
Well,
And that's throughout the country. We've now
if
proven
if
you're
you
proven
look,
guilty until, or you're guilty until proven innocent.
if you're on the wrong side of the aisle, because others, it didn't matter who you killed, what you burnt down, you had every right to do it.
Right.
But in both cases, they are connected. The riots and the DAs that refuse to prosecute, they were all backed by George Soros.
Okay.
Why would you have riots with pallets of bricks strategically set out at spots throughout where they were getting ready to go burn down buildings and stuff? They were put there.
Well, I had more of an issue with Antifa and like when they would go into the communities that were they don't even live. And I just remember down in Atlanta and a lady was she was lighting that Wendy's on fire, and the guy was filming her, and he goes, "Why are you doing this?" And she's like, "Well, we're doing this for you." And he's like, "Hey, get out of here because they're just going to blame us." And there's a lot of people in the black community that that gets infiltrated by the Antifa and people.
Well, that happened on January 6th too.
Well,
they were also infiltrated.
Yes, they were.
But if you look at Antifa, it's supposed to be anti-fascist. You could not get more fascist than how these people are.
I totally
because
agree.
the brown shirts in Germany would try to shout down people in colleges and wouldn't let them talk or got them kicked off campus and try to threaten and intimidate them.
Right.
Who does this now? Antifa.
Well, I guess in the end, for me, I kind of worry more about like you want to go by the rule of law. So if something happens, you're going to reach out. Like, hey, I know if I call the police, if they get charged, they're going to have something come up. But now it worries me that you're having a banana republic with politicians, if I agree with them or if I don't agree with them, getting charged, and it's looking. So how, if, as you said earlier, what's going to say that he's going to look? You can think it's going to stop with Donald Trump. It's not. It's going to come
It's not going to stop, but he's a good speed bump.
He's going to. They would come to me. I mean, they'll come to you. They'll come to
my hope is the way I'm looking at it. Trump needs to get reelected to have an actual term. His first term was wasted. The Democrats saw to that. Have an actual term. Then once he is finished, then DeSantis comes in for 2 terms.
Do you know anybody else besides? They're right now, obviously, the top front runners for the Republican
DeSantis is the only governor or anybody in politics that has been able to get rid of a Soros-backed DA or judge.
Oh, really?
He's gotten one out of office. Nobody else has been able to do that.
Do you know of any of the other candidates that have declared? Nikki Haley. You've got now. I'll tell you who my personal favorite is, and I think he sounds wonderful. Is Ramaswamy, Vika Ramaswamy. He's a businessman. Now, at CPAC, which I hear it was very boring and all that good stuff, but that being said, when you listen to him, if you go to his Twitter. I wish I knew his handle. Mm-hmm. And you look at his videos. He was calling for Nikki Haley, DeSantis. He was calling on every Republican to today denounce what's going on with Donald Trump. He's like, even though I'm running against Donald Trump for the nomination, he's like, if George Bush would have arrested John Kerry back in 2004, the place would be going nuts.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the Republicans should do that, but the Democrats should too. Every person in office right now whoever they're representing should contact them and ask them, do you support the Bill of Rights or not?
Right.
And that should be your guide on if you vote for them again. Because the people who are doing this witch hunt going after him, they damn well don't support the Bill of Rights. They damn well don't support the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this country's built on.
Right.
So if they don't support it, when you go in office, you swear to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go in there and you do your damnedest to undercut the Constitution, that's not defending it.
Right.
So in my mind, every one of these people are traitors.
Yeah. Well, you could just do other things. I mean, if you got insider trading, if you've got the war machine, you got a lot of stuff out there that you can make more. That you could charge almost every person in Congress with some type of felony, probably that me or you would be in jail.
That's another thing. It is wrong for politicians to pass laws that pertain to us, but they're exempt from.
Oh, that totally agree with that one.
Every law should pertain to anybody inside the borders of the United States or any of their territories.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay. So you're Trump or nothing? Who is DeSantis? Is Nikki Haley a no-go for you? Who else is there? Anyone else that's declared? I know Nikki Haley, Vic Ramaswamy, DeSantis is just this rumored, and then Trump. No one else has done
people
it.
are trying.
Oh, Pence. Pence is. I think he's going to be a flop. He's boring.
People are trying to push DeSantis, but people in Florida love him to death, and he's got a real good thing there now, and he's setting a good example for the other Republican governors to have a backbone.
Yeah.
So he is, if he cares about the country, he's best suited where he is for now.
Mm-hmm.
Then let Trump go in and do his thing. These other people that would stand a good chance, pick one of them for the vice president.
Right.
Because there's nothing that says he has to pick Pence again. So, and get Nikki Haley or whoever.
If I was Trump right now, if he gets the nomination, I would speak to Ramaswamy. I'm telling you, that guy sounds good. I need to look more into him because
I haven't heard anything he said.
I'm shocked you haven't.
I have nothing to say one way or the other because I don't know.
Right. Well, I'm telling you, he's a very good guy. And once again, I'm picking a guy that got 2 or 3%. He's single digits at CPAC. But he sounded good. I thought he...
so was Kamala Harris. She was like 2%. And then since India is now Africa, she gets voted in and gets that vote.
Mm-hmm. Well,
because
Kamala Harris...
New Delhi is Africa, right?
It is. Kamala Harris was a horrible individual who should have never been elected to the U.S. Senate, and she should have never been even considered to be the nominee. That was a straight up, we need someone to check a box.
Yeah.
I think, and probably the Democrats truly wanted Mayor Pete to be their nominee, but once he got onto the big stage, he flopped. He's flopping right now as the transportation secretary with this train derailment.
Yeah, what was it, like 10 days before they even showed up?
I think it was 20, if memory serves.
But Trump was there.
I know, and Trump looked good, and he went there. And people shit on him because he took McDonald's. And he had that wonderful line. He was telling the reporters he probably knows the McDonald's menu better than any of them. That's a real American working class move it was like when, people laughed at him about eating ketchup on steak. But the whole idea is ketchup on steak, a lot of guys and, who aren't billionaires and millionaires, they would eat ketchup on a steak. So when you're hearing this media laugh at that, they're like, hey, why are they laughing at it?
Yeah, well, they're elite.
Right.
So.
That's all that is. And Trump did a wonderful thing, Gary. Benny Johnson, I think his name is. He's a YouTuber, podcaster. He went up there and gave $20,000. So he took $20,000 and he gave $1,000 to people close to the area. The government hadn't done it. That's being a libertarian when you go out and you do it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And
well, see, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And instead of as like the Democrats are compassionate. If they pass laws for them to basically take your money at gunpoint, which is what taxes are, and spend your money to help somebody else, then they're compassionate.
Right.
So, and instead of digging in your own pocket and handing it to them.
Yeah. I mean, when I became a libertarian, the whole idea of being a libertarian is to break free of being controlled by the government, standing up, food. Because we're having a lot of issues with the food or drinking water and things to that nature. And that's what I like when I see people stand up. And I should have just coughed right into the microphone. That would have really helped the views. But I like when people do that. So what do you think would bring you... Is there any way that you would say, all right, in 2024, what would bring you to vote a libertarian? Real quick. I know we're going to change gears now, so that's what we'll ask.
All along, my problem with libertarians has been their views on drugs.
Uh-huh.
And I can't see... I know the argument of all this was illegal back in cowboy days and all this stuff, and you could do whatever. People are so darn stupid now. I don't think it's a good idea to just open it up to anything and everything that people want to take. Now, granted, that might weed out all the idiots, but I don't think it's a good thing.
Is that the only thing that holds you back?
That's the main thing that holds me back.
Really? So prostitution's pretty cool? Hell yeah!
It's all about my mom. That's an imitation.
I'm glad you told people that was an imitation.
Well, hopefully, I don't want them to think it's me.
Well, the thing is, like when it comes to legalizing drugs, prostitution, there's a lot of stuff that worries me that if it becomes legal, you would turn into Portland or Seattle. Or look at videos of Philadelphia. I mean, I always would love if hopefully one day there is a time machine so we can go back in time. And the first thing I'm going to do is show people, like, if I can go back to the early 1900s, I'm going to show them Avengers Endgame and say this is the future. And that's my plan. And then I would use the time machine once again to go back even further to pick up like Washington and Benjamin Franklin and bring them forward and show them where the country
they
is.
would be censored on Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and the media would trash them all to hell. And right. if he tried to cross the Potomac, they'd sink his boat and everything else. And anybody that's actually patriotic and for this country, they are for more hate.
Yeah, so that's what I would hopefully we can get. When I look next time, will you please cough into the microphone? Thank you so much. But I just think.
And I'm not wiping it off either.
Good. I don't fear COVID.
I don't. That's another thing. That was all made up.
All right. Well, hold on. All right, where were we at? We were talking about legalization of drugs, prostitution, things of that nature. I cannot, even though I'm a libertarian, I can't say that I would want it legal, but I understand. I think there's ways that we can do it to make it legal. Well, you can make stuff legal, and it don't mean you're going to go do something. If I say,
Well,
"Hey, heroin's legal," I lay you the
Well, that's been
syringe
an
there.
argument for a lot of things all along of, oh, it's legal. Something being legal doesn't make it right.
Right. And I understand that. So
Yeah.
in turn, we've got stuff now like in Mountain Dew. We've got the FDA that says, hey, we're here to protect you, but they keep saying, oh, we're going to co-sign on that. We're going to give it, oh, it's healthy for you to take or put into your body, eat. And, that's my thing is let's make, if I would not want to see any of one that I know become a prostitute. That being said, if they did become a prostitute, if it was legal, if something happened to them, they could go to the law. They could, but here we go again with prostitution. Legal countries that have legalized prostitution have higher human trafficking, and we already have an issue with human trafficking. So,
which is why we need to close the border.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother subject too. Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of them coming across are sex traffickers.
Not all of them. I think
these people are not families.
No. I'm not debating that. I do think it's an act of war. I think when you infiltrate a country with and what would happen is you break the system. I think I have no issue with immigration because we need people. There's a lot of hard workers. There are people that are family. Okay, they're hard workers.
We're in Afghanistan that we left,
and once again, I'm totally agreeing. So in turn, we need to know who's coming in, and that way, if the folks get here, okay, they work. If you want to go home, they're able to get home and not be like, because I know an illegal back from years ago where I used to work, and his dad died.
Name names.
Oh, I'll name names. But he couldn't go back to Guatemala because he was illegal. So if he went back, he would have to figure out how to get back. And
that was one of the things that Trump did, was he had it to where they would stay in Mexico.
Right.
And they would have all their paperwork and everything filed and everything they're supposed to do done there. Then when they came in, they're legal the second they cross the line.
Well, and I would prefer that, but have people.
But Biden got rid of that day one.
Well, Biden's an idiot. But you have more people flying on student visas, work visas, that overstay that than run across the border. So in turn, if you really wanted to have an immigration discussion, I think that's something we need to have. The problem what we're having is it's easier to have a boogeyman than to actually fix the problem. It's almost like the medical. It's absolutely. It's like the medical industry. It's. You can't make a profit with a cure. Mm-hmm. That's same way. You can't make a profit if you cure immigration.
That's the thing I've always said with cancer. They probably got the cure, but they're not paid for a cure. They're paid for research.
Absolutely. And also, when a bad thing is because they're researching it, if you say, hey, let's talk about global, we'll just stick with cancer. You want me to find the answer you're looking for. If I came up and went, no, this is causing cancer, or no, it's not causing cancer, whichever one you want, that's the one I'm going to give you.
Depending on how much money's thrown at you.
Because otherwise, I'm not going to get the money to continue my research because, I'm not finding what you want to hear.
Yeah.
What do you think about the banking issues and things of that nature?
They screwed up last time when they said they're too big to fail.
Right.
They should have let them fail.
Do you have any Bitcoin?
No.
Do you like crypto? What do you think of it?
To me, since it's basically it doesn't exist.
What's the dollar? Does it exist?
Well, you can actually hold one in your hands, but
Well,
it's not worth anything.
Yeah, you
anymore.
can hold that piece of
Because
paper you got right there in your hands.
it's
too.
like how the government does now. Of they just print more money. It reminds me of a bumper sticker that reminded me of someone. It says, "I can't be broke. I still have checks left." Well, all they do is we're not broke. We just print more money, and then people don't realize that they're just devaluing everything. We need to go back to the gold standard.
Right. Or something similar. You have something backing our dollar besides our promises.
Mm-hmm.
But I was listening to someone talk because, since they borrow off our debt, there's absolutely no way they can pay down the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they took and said, all right, every single dime we bring in taxes will not go to pay for infrastructure or Social Security or anything. It's going to pay off the debt. It would take like 10 years just to pay off what they tell you's out there.
And instead of the budget like they do, of it must be increased a certain percentage of whatever department every year, because if you don't get that increase, then the media calls it a cut.
Right.
Even though people went 10 years without a pay raise, nobody said you got a pay cut. Right. So it's a double standard. But what they should do with the tax money comes in, every place the money goes,
mm-hmm.
you delegate a percentage of what comes in. It's like, if you think defense is important, they get 25% of the budget. Right. And then if it goes up 1 year or if it goes down 1 year, you got 25%. Mm-hmm. No deficit will ever happen then, because like everyone else across the country that has to live within their means, the government will be doing it too, because they'll have a budget of percentage, not numbers.
Right. I'm in agreement with that. So is there anything else that worries you right now? I know you probably don't worry. You probably just sit at home and...
The indoctrination that goes on in schools, the media that does not report news anymore. They are all editorials, and they're not telling you what happened. They're telling you what to think, and that's not news.
Right.
And the dumbing down of America. If you watch, there's so many videos of, they asked a bunch of high school students in Texas, mm-hmm. what country borders the United States to the south? It's like 80% of them got it wrong. I'm like, my God. There's people, they couldn't tell you who the president is right now. They couldn't tell you why we celebrate the 4th of July.
I think a lot of times I would find people would know like the big one, like president, but they wouldn't know who the vice president is. It's just like they might know the governor, but they don't know who the attorney general or the vice or the lieutenant governor is.
Well, they need to stop in schools trashing America, where anything and everything that's ever happened bad in the history of the world is caused by America or white males. They need to get off of that and quit doing the hate. Let go of the racism. Let go of the sexism. And it's just, it's pitiful.
Right. So that's all that's worried you. But that's the last thing. I was like, out of the indoctrination of just kids, adults, everything. Because when I watch Facebook, when I watch Twitter, look at Twitter and all that stuff.
The open hostile attacks that seem to be just fine and dandy with people. Well, and they don't get upset about it at all. And it's not just against Trump. It's against people across the spectrum.
When you said open hostile attacks, what I thought about is we have gotten to a point in this country where human life is not precious. So war is fine. When we celebrate abortion, look, I know me and you have discussed abortion on numerous occasions, and I'd be anti-abortion, but I understand if that I think there's like a 2 or 3% chance that there might be a reason for an abortion. I get that, but overall, I would never. But that's a human life. So I would not sit here and go, oh, I can't wait for that 2 or 3% to come in. I don't look at war. I don't look so in turn because we've just reduced it down. That's why you got violence, I think, and gun violence, and then we have no family.
Yeah. Well, if you look at life doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
In New York City and in probably other places, but they had what they called a knockout game, where they thought it was funny, where some little teenager can come up to a 98-year-old woman and punch her in the mouth and knock her out, and they're all giddy thinking that's hilarious. Well, now these idiots have gone from that to where people can be standing there waiting to go on a subway, and the second the thing starts coming in, push them onto the tracks in front of the subway, and that's supposed to be funny.
Right.
And then people just, life is cheapened.
You know, I was thinking, because we have an issue here in Roanoke with gun violence, and we have a gun violence committee, and one of their brilliant ideas is we're going to have a talent show to reduce gun violence.
Target shoot?
Yes, a target shoot. But you know what? What I think I really think what maybe should be discussed. One, I think you need to bring back the family. I think churches need to come back. But well, in the end,
the government doesn't want the family because
no, they don't want the family.
If these women have kids without a husband, they get a lot more money than if the husband's there.
Absolutely.
Which is why the divorce rate. Well, plus, what incentive is it for a man to get married now when these women first hate men and they make no bones about it? But then if you get a divorce, they're going to take everything you got and think it's funny.
Do you think Ronald Reagan passing the no-fault divorce was a bad idea? And I know you were probably a young child, so you were probably...
No.
What were you, 10?
No.
What were you, 35?
No. But that was not a bad idea. What is bad is the judges that are also anti-male when it comes to families.
Why is no-fault divorce a good idea?
If these people aren't going to get along,
yeah,
and they know they're not going to get along, why force them to be there?
Why did they get married? Wouldn't they have known that, you think?
No, because people are stupid. Now, how many people you know that they meet somebody and then the next week they're running off somewhere? My thing is
32.
You've all, there you go. which that probably ends in 30 divorces. But what I've always advised to people is when you meet someone, you date solid and steady minimum 1 year before you even consider marriage, because people put up fronts, but eventually they're going to get comfortable and they're going to let the guard down and you're going to see the real person.
Right.
So if you wait to see that before you put a ring on their finger, you're a whole lot better off.
Right. All right. Let's see. I cannot think of anything else to talk about. Oh, I could talk about a lot of things.
Got that right, Big Daddy.
I'm not going to talk about anything because I don't want to expose you on this first podcast you've done with me, because I hope you come back for a second one, and that way I can expose you then. Okay. So thanks for sitting down with me, talking with me. You can say you're welcome.
Now I'm going to have to go look at some videos of that guy you were talking about so I can be informed next time.
Yeah, oh, you better be informed next time, I tell you that. And while you're at it, if you don't mind, everyone listening to this, please go to the Maximum Libertarian YouTube page. click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That'll help us out. Go over to Twitter, follow us at WeAreMaxLib, so you can see all of our news and things that we post there. And until next time, thanks for listening. And Charles, you got anything to say?
No, you didn't tell them to subscribe or smash the like button and all this other crap that everybody always says for YouTube.
Okay.
And hit the bell to get all the notifications.
Yeah, well, that sounds good. So I guess we're going to go over now and we'll sneak up behind people and give them little kisses on the back of the neck. So until next time, I'm Brian. That's Charles. We'll see you later.
See ya.